and with that location and what it can do. General services, we're looking at continuing public restrooms, being a downtown merchant resource, and also including recreational services at that site. So individuals that are here to utilize our parks, to recreate in our park area, to do recreation facility services would go to the location on 6 and G to do their reservations there also. We find that that is a like or similar field that can play off of each other well. The reason why we're proposing this and the justification, some pointers and positives with regards to taking and actually utilizing a bona fide city official in that location along with rec services associated with it, and keeping the Welcome Center housed under the City of Grants Pass. One of the most important reasons why we're proposing this is to provide and continue to provide and increase a direct link between council and staff and the downtown merchants and the visitors. Having it be a city location where it's staffed by city staff. Increase the accountability, reporting, and customer service with on-site city staff, with having an actual city individual there instead of part-time temporary individuals. This would enhance the ability to provide updated information to merchants and the public about city initiatives with city employees versus part-time contract help. Provides flexibility for future increased partnerships with the DMO as they grow. Centralized location for recreation services, permits, and reservations. Currently right now, reservations is in the maintenance building at Reinhardt Volunteer Park. Not really the best location for people wanting to have recreational services, and this would be a highly traveled, centralized location that can play well with our tourism and travel opportunities here within Josephine County and Grants Pass. It also provides a second revenue source through the Parks Division to support the Welcome Center operations and vice versa. We're able to play off of each other with regards to our colleagues, both from a Welcome Center perspective and a recreational services perspective. So that's one of the proposals that we're proposing to you, is to utilize that as a city operation with full-time staff member there, and also bring in rec services as part of that operational services that are provided from 6 and G. Want to highlight going and changing mindset a little bit. How is the current structure now, and what is the current structure we're proposing? Because this is part 2 of the brief presentation that I have, which is very important also. Our current economic development structure is that we have a business advocate, and we have a few part-time temporary employees that we go through a temp agency to work in the 6 and G Welcome Center. It's funded through lodging tax and general fund, and it costs about $145,000 a year. The business advocate does tourism. They are also staff liaison to a number of advisory committees. They focus on some of our grants for downtown businesses. They are a face for the merchants in the city, and they do have a small role in urban renewal. Based on Council's strategic plan and priorities, especially one of the priorities that is coming forward of Council's interest is urban renewal agency growth and project development. With that, we are proposing to change the structure of our economic development division in this way. Changing the business advocate to an economic development manager, and then having an economic development administrative assistant. Now, the economic development manager would do many of the things the business advocate is doing, but a large portion of their time would also be spent on urban renewal and moving forward with our urban renewal plan, along with economic development strategy plan, doing additional research and analysis for business trends, and additional reports and presentations for council. This position, this higher level position than a business advocate, would be supported by the Economic Development Administrative Assistant. This Economic Development Administrative Assistant would primarily be housed in the Welcome Center. That would be that individual that would be that help be that face for the city and that connection to the merchants and to those individuals that are coming and visiting. They would be in charge of that Welcome Center operations. They would be that Central Business District advocate, and then they, of course, would be assisting the Economic Development Manager and helping out with some marketing and tourism. So what does this look like from a cost perspective? The Economic Development Manager would run anywhere all in, including benefits and salary, at $111,000 to $149,000. Salary would be $79,000 to $106,000, with the Economic Development Assistant being $42,000 to $53,000. So those are numbers of where we would go, but let's compare them to the numbers that we're looking at today. And what we're talking about is a proposal that provides us an opportunity to continue the economic development, the business advocacy, but also increase our actual services at the Welcome Center itself, and also increase the level of upper economic development work, including urban renewal agency work that is needed based on council's strategic plan. So comparing the current position, we have an economic development business advocate, which is including salary and benefits at about $127,000, with Welcome Center temporary personnel costing about $42,000, which is $169,000. With the new proposal of the two economic positions, both the development manager and the administrative assistant for the Welcome Center, we'd be at $217,000, including half of what we would need for temporary personnel. This would be an opportunity for us to continue to provide hours open for Saturdays or different event opportunities. How are those positions funded, both current and proposed? TLT revenues wouldn't change. We're looking at the transient lodging tax revenue still being at about, say, $123,000 and going towards currently right now, it's going towards the economic development business advocate. So all of that would go towards salary and benefits of that position and or the proposed positions, which would be split 65 and 58, but still no change, plus or minus. General fund revenue actually would be a savings to the city if we do this plan. We would save $17,000 approximately in general fund revenues if we propose this new level of staffing. That is partially due because we would be having an individual that is focused on urban renewal agency. We would utilize $65,000 annually of the urban renewal funds to help staff this individual to provide a specific focus on urban renewal growth and development. So, I've got a number of alternatives here, and I want to make sure that I'm clear that there's two things that can happen here, and I'll go through these in bullet points and answer any questions you may have. The alternatives are support the proposed reorganization, which is to form an economic manager and an economic administrative assistant, and continue the operation and the growth of the operation of the Welcome Center and the services that were provided there, which includes rec services being placed there also. That's one option. Another option is to retain the business advocate, which we have right now, create an economic administrative assistant position, and continue to increase and grow the Welcome Center operations with rec services down there also. So we could, from a standpoint of a Welcome Center, because there's two issues here. There's a Welcome Center operations that I'm trying to address, plus I'm trying to address the future of the city and economic development and urban renewal agency. So with the proposal, I'm addressing the Welcome Center, maintaining that face for the city at 6 and G, and I'm addressing the future of the urban renewal agency and economic development. Bullet point 2 addresses the Welcome Center, the face of the city down there, that direct connection, and the additional services that could be provided there, but does not address urban renewal agency at a level that I believe is important to be able to accomplish council's goals. Bullet point 3 is support creation of economic development manager in place of the business advocate. This would provide an opportunity for us to have urban renewal agency growth and focus, but it does not address the downtown 6&G Welcome Center. We could wait for the chamber proposal to operate the Welcome Center. We could retain the current business advocate structure and Welcome Center operations. We can move to additional workshop for further information and discussion. So coming back from you, what I'm looking for is feedback on where you'd like to go with this. My proposal is, if we're moving towards a focus on urban renewal, which we have a number of high priority goals and task force being formed, et cetera, that are focused on urban renewal, I believe it's important for us to have a position that is reclassified and reorganized from the business advocate, which had a very little role in urban renewal. We need an urban renewal focused person, someone that has experience in urban renewal. And so the idea is to create this new position and recruit that individual. Since we have that position opening, this is a perfect opportunity for us to do that. With Susan's retirement, we have an opportunity to make that change and be beneficial to the community. I also believe it's important with that recommendation, and we could go with just that recommendation. That would be one thing I'd recommend. The other thing is for your consideration of the use of the Welcome Center on 6&G. I believe that we can save general fund dollars, and we can increase the services to the downtown, to our traveling visitors, and have a direct link between you and the downtown merchants if we maintain ownership of 6&G and staff that with that economic assistant. And with that, Mayor, Council, I turn it over to you for questions.
Thanks, Aaron. I have a couple of questions before I go to Council. With this plan, the, I guess, recreation person would be in addition to the 2 new positions. So you're looking at having 3 people staffed there?
Yeah, that's one of the benefits, is they'd be able to play off of each other. Say one has to go to a doctor's appointment, or one's busy, or something along those lines. We'll be able to work together in dealing with similar interests coming in to want to do business at that location.
Okay, so theoretically, the recreation person could also be there if the chamber was there. That's...
Could be. We could potentially work that out, yes.
Okay, and can you tell us more about the background of what the business advocate position was and how it's different than what the new position would be?
So the business advocate main role was highlighted back here, where they really are doing a lot of the staff liaison activities, which we would try to get the administrative assistant to do more of the staff liaison, do the advisory committees. They were doing tourism. They were taking the lead on the grants, for instance, like the ones that we did for Mr. Warren at the last business meeting. They were doing regional collaboration, like through the So Ready and RV-COG and those kind of things, but not much urban renewal. And so that was a piece that's missing that I believe we need to think about strengthening.
Okay, so we wouldn't necessarily be losing any services by creating this, because you're creating 2 positions that would just sort those duties out in a new way?
Yeah, there wouldn't be any loss. There would actually be an increase in the level of the amount of service, the bandwidth, and then also in the breadth of what can be focused on.
Okay, thank you. Council, do you have any questions? Valerie?
Yeah, I'm going to go for clarification, kind of bouncing off what you said. It seemed to me that it was a Welcome Center temporary personnel and the rec person who would be primarily focusing on the Welcome Center. Am I correct? And the economic business advocate, would they be at the city, or would they also be at the Welcome Center? Because it was kind of my...
So the way it would work from just the placement of where these individuals would be, the economic development business advocate would be housed here at City Hall. The economic development manager, would be housed at City Hall, and the administrative assistant for economic development would be housed primarily at the 6&G Welcome Center.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Joel?
Just a minor question, Aaron. In terms of marketing and the rental properties for the park, that brings in some income. I know COVID's hurt our occupancy, but were we at full occupancy before or pretty close? Or is this increased marketing or changed, projected to change our occupancy rate and increase it?
So I don't have the numbers to give you on with regards to occupancy of how much people are using the Harry and David shelter or other things of the park in our rentals at this point.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Brian?
Thanks, Aaron. I mean, you don't have to go back, but on slide 5, it talks about the current operations and services, and one of the things is event coordination. And how much event coordination was the temporary person really providing in our current structure?
So the event coordination, you mean down at the Welcome Center itself?
Yeah.
Let's see what slide you're talking about.
That's slide 5.
Slide 5. Where is that? Trying to find it.
There you go. That'll work.
Right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So from a standpoint of tourism in general in the Welcome Center, there was some event coordination going on there. It was a lot of Susan and then advisory committees that were associated with that. So event coordination is something that it not necessarily the city taking on event coordination, but also individuals coming in, nonprofits coming in saying, hey, I want to do this event, and the coordination with the community also. It's not just the ones that the city has ownership of.
Okay.
That's not changing with either one of those proposals.
Okay.
Are you done, Brian?
Sure.
Okay, Rob?
So I, looked at the presentation over the weekend, and after hearing all the words, I still really have no idea how what most people would consider the primary focus of the Welcome Center to be. I don't understand how that really relates to or ties together with an urban renewal area management level position. It almost seems to me to be two completely different subjects. And where you house them, whether it's a satellite of City Hall down there or whether it's in City Hall, it doesn't really matter, but I still don't understand how an urban renewal position, if it's required, and I'm not sure that it is, but if it's required, how that ties in with the primary function of the Welcome Center.
So it necessarily does not tie it in. What I'm looking at is with the proposed positions of an economic development manager versus the business advocate, we will have an urban renewal agency focus with the individual that would be housed here at City Hall. We would also have an economic development administrative assistant that would be housed at the Welcome Center, who would be providing support to the economic development manager. But if you take a look at the position allocations, 50% of the economic development manager's role is coming from economic development, which is transient lodging tax dollars. 50% is coming from urban renewal. The economic development administrative assistant / Welcome Center does not have urban renewal associated with it, so it is not focused on urban renewal.
Rick?
Thank you, Aaron. The gal that's currently down there at the Welcome Center, she's been there about 2 years now, is that about right? Whatever.
We've had a couple of temp individuals there, and
Okay.
one is left but is still around.
Okay, so would they be a candidate to apply for any of those positions, or what's your?
Of course, anyone would be a candidate if they qualify for those positions, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Brian?
If we move the recreation services staff person down there, it sounds like they'd be taking on some duties that they're not currently handling, like when the assistant is not there at a committee meeting or, meeting with a downtown merchant or something. It sounds like that person might be responsible for staffing the Welcome Center as well. Is that accurate?
No, they'd be just basically a backup. Primarily, we would have that staffed either through a temp or through the economic administrative assistant. The scheduling, though, would potentially allow for that additional help where someone's on the phone, oh, someone walks in, the rec person can say, hey, yeah, just a minute. So they play off of each other. It's a good opportunity for them to serve the community that way.
Thank you.
Valerie?
Yeah, I'm gonna say, actually, I like some parts of this, just in my being acquainted with Susan, because I do feel that she was ripped in two very different directions. And so just for me watching that, seeing her working with, Soretti and so many of the organizations that she did, I like the idea. I think truly, you're right, if we're gonna truly take the urban renewal seriously and get on it, it would help to have somebody in that role to help, because there's a lot of moving pieces in that role as well. So I can really see it working. The one thing I would like to see before I truly make a decision is I know that the chamber is putting together some sort of a proposal. I have no idea what it is, but I do know that they have something that they are currently working on and are getting to us. And so I would just kind of like to factor that piece in before I made my ultimate decision. But I can really see in my dealings with the downtown as well, I can see that having somebody down there would be a benefit, because a lot of the people do go down there and ask questions all the time. And I think having somebody who knows what's going on in the city would be a very positive. So I like the idea. I feel pretty comfortable with it, but I would like to get some feedback from the chamber. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you.
Aaron, do you know, the chamber is scheduled for an update on March 7th. Is that going to be part of their discussion? Do you have any idea?
I don't have a date on when they're actually going to have that proposal to us. It looks like Joel might have some information.
Yeah.
Joel?
So I went to their meeting this morning, and actually it's an intergovernmental meeting, and they're getting proposals presented to their board this Wednesday. I also shared with them today's presentation, so they're aware of what the city's thinking. Mm-hmm. And so I'm sure the board will contemplate that as well. And I support what Valerie was saying, and we can just out of respect, but also out of information, seeing what they come up with, not make a decision till we hear back from them, and what their board, they're knowing what we're thinking of. And they'll respond back to us, and we'll hear their thoughts, for good, bad, or ugly, and move forward.
Brian?
I just had a question. This might be more for Brad. With the recreation services position, do we have any idea of how frequent they have in-person interactions with customers as opposed to online or on the phone?
Julia has very few right now. Part of that is, as Aaron mentioned, I think because of the location, and also we have we're moving towards more online reservations for the shelters and the fields and other facilities. There is some, particularly if you're interested in reserving a facility in Reinhardt. Part of one of the leagues, softball, soccer. Though there's been some interaction there, but it's pretty limited.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? No. All right, council, did you want to discuss this further today? We do, Rob?
Thanks. A few things I'd like to say. It's obviously Aaron has a job, as city manager to balance a lot of moving parts. I want to know, and it's not a question for him, but I want to know that the primary focus, I want everyone to remember that what the primary focus of the Welcome Center is. I think 1 or 1A would be, quite frankly, bathrooms, which we're going to be talking about later. The second thing would be to provide, and I'm quite sure that I would speak for all the downtown merchants and the visitors, the possibly the most important thing, is to provide good, solid, enthusiastic information. I know that, some of you may know her, a woman who owns a business downtown, Jan, Emporium, 6th and A. If you ever go in her store, she is the absolute best example of the type of mentality I would like to see working in the Welcome Center. Now, she's private sector, so we may not be able to recreate that, but if someone walks in her store, she really views the downtown as a department store, and she understands what's in each department, and if somebody asks for something she doesn't have, she's unbelievably enthusiastic about sending people to exactly where they need to go. She gives them directions, she gives them options. She's over-the-top enthusiasm and sold on the downtown. That's primarily our number one, I think, focus, and I'm sure I speak for the downtown merchants and the tourists. Could be one, bathrooms may be more important. The second thing that would be also very important, and if you look at the report from the DMO consultants from last year, when people go into a Welcome Center, wherever it is, whether it's uptown, downtown, or on a freeway, getting or helping people decide, tourists decide to spend an extra day or 2 or 3 here because of their knowledge of the general area. So specifically, they got to know in depth and be jazzed about the downtown and all the different businesses, and secondarily, what the area has to offer. My concern is that Aaron has such a large responsibility here and has thrown out so many different concerns that he has, that I don't know that the primary focus or the primary 3 focuses, foci, are being lost in this discussion. I don't want them to be lost. We need to look at what the most important things about that Welcome Center is, if, and that's a big if we can dovetail other aspects and other ways of funding those positions, that's fine. But I don't want, I think what Brian may have been getting to earlier, I'm not sure, but if you have somebody that only occasionally picks up the phone, or only occasionally, or a few hours, or maybe when someone's on vacation, has to man the Welcome Center for a week, I don't want that person to necessarily be, second string or out of position because they're more focused on, recreation, or they're more focused on the urban renewal. I want that person to be really good at doing the primary functions of what that Welcome Center is there for. And I don't want that to get lost in the rest of the discussion. The rest of the discussion needs to circle around that, not the other way around. That has to be the focus, in my opinion.
Aaron?
I greatly appreciate Councilor Pell's comments, and that's exactly why we're bringing this forward to you in this manner. I believe the proposal as presented would provide us that opportunity to have that true ambassador there that is a city employee instead of a temporary individual through a temp agency where we might get one person one time, we might get another person another time. We have the ability to bring in our top, we've got amazing top-notch staff, and we've got an opportunity to bring in someone that could be a true ambassador with the flexibility of wanting, of council's desires of wanting to change things or do things. We would have that flexibility with this plan. And I'd be very, very excited about that focus and that ambassadorship that position would provide for it. And I 100% agree with what you've just said, Councilor Pell.
DJ, then Brian, then Joel.
Yeah, thanks. We've been searching for a solution for this Welcome Center for quite some time. We got close with the last presentation about the rec center going down there. I think the opportunity is right for the recreation of the business advocate job. Get recreation in there, reorganize it. I think that it's important that the city keeps this as its line to downtown, as I see the primary reason it's there is it's our milestone downtown for the city to connect to the downtown. And I think that this proposal meets all of my expectations and exceeds my expectations for what we can use the Welcome Center for, maximizing potential with the positions, efficiency as far as the budget goes. I'm totally sold on this idea. I think this gets right to the core of what my expectations were.
Brian, then Joel.
I'm really glad I got this presentation Friday because it's taken me 3 days to really wrap my head around all of these moving parts. And now that I've had 3 days and I've seen the presentation, I think I'm actually really close with you on this, Aaron. You know, when I first saw it, it was kind of overwhelming. But I think I'm pretty close. I don't know that the economic development manager and assistant, I don't know that those need to be coupled. I almost think economic development person should be here at the city, you know, and then the person down there should be essentially like the welcome center manager or the downtown manager. I don't know that that position needs to be an assistant to the economic development person. So that would be one thing. I don't want that person down there to have their duties diluted so much that they're ineffective in their ability to be a liaison for downtown, which I feel like is one of their primary responsibilities. I don't know that that person at the Welcome Center needs to take on committee liaison roles where they're, you know, having to leave the Welcome Center. Also, you had marketing and tourism website on here for that person, and I feel like that would be the job of the information coordinator that we have unfilled, or possibly even the DMO. So I personally would probably pare down the responsibilities you have listed on slide 9 for the assistant position to Welcome Center, Central Business District Advocate. And that's pretty much it. And then, yeah, so I think I'm pretty close with you.
Thank you, Counselor. And I do agree with what you're saying there. The primary and principal role of that individual downtown is to be that downtown face. And of course, they will be assisting in some form or fashion, but that would be the primary role. That's what they would be hired for, is to be that 6 G Welcome Center staff member.
Joel, then Rob?
Well, the thing I like about it, in a lot of corporations today, they're getting away from functional and they're going to integrated workforce. And so it's typical, like you look at the Army, they're a force of one, where one person communicates, fights, directs, and, you know, they put a laser on a building and the Air Force comes and, you know, and there's some efficiencies to be gained by that. And if you go too much, you know, it can you can lose some things. So I would just encourage us to continue, you know, like what Rob said is important, and urban development needs an assigned person with direction, and we need to emphasize the merchants downtown, and it's not an or, it's an and so I like the presentation that you presented. And the other thing I'm thinking is economic development is the other part of the housing crunch in terms of jobs and wages. Because you need those to support housing, so people can have a place to live, they can be independent, they can earn their own living. And that change to the economic administrative assistant economic manager for economic development, I think is a move in the right direction.
Rob?
So in the interest of trying to move forward, rather than kind of tread water, I'd like to pare down this discussion to some degree. To me, I can see an obvious overlap with the downtown ambassador also being the liaison to City Hall, and, you know, communicating with all the different merchants and in whatever form that takes. Sometimes it requires walking around and talking to all of them. Other times it might just be memos and so forth. I can see that working. But what doesn't help me move forward with this, I'd like clarification when DJ says he likes the plan. I mean, as far as I don't know, I've seen like at least 3 different plans here today. So I don't know what he means, and I don't know if we move forward how we pare it down and focus. And Joel did some of the same. You know, he likes the plan or wants to move forward, but there's at least 3 different things that have been proposed here today. So if we're going to move forward, where's the focus going to go? How are we funneling this in to an action?
Do you have a suggestion, or do you want DJ to clarify?
I don't. I'd like clarification. DJ says he likes the plan. Well, which part of what plan?
Okay, DJ, could you please clarify?
Okay, well, I thought I was pretty clear on what I said, but here, let me try to say it again. So the reorganization and do an econ manager and the administrative assistant, put them in the Welcome Center. Put recreation services in the Welcome Center and operate those and let her go. We can provide the same services that the Welcome Center has been historically, but we can bolster those services by having economic administration and recreation in that building as well. I see benefits for the budget. I see reallocation. I see saving this money that council wanted to do out of the general fund at the beginning of last year. And I see sort of a, oh gosh, I hate this word, but I'm going to say it. I see sort of a synergistic opportunity here with recreation and econ working together, creating a more efficient welcome center in the downtown. I think it's appropriate for all of those. Does that clarify my position?
Thank you very much.
Kurt?
So when I was coming down here today, I knew this was going to be the topic, and I was not excited. I'm sure I said to many of you, I really don't value the Welcome Center beyond the bathrooms. So I thought that the Welcome Center needed to expand its capabilities, or there's really no reason for it. And so I'm generally supportive of this plan. I think this does achieve what I'm looking for there. I also think that while I don't value it, the chamber seems to. And so the fact that they have a plan coming up, I think we should probably hear them out before we make a plan. But I think this is a good idea, and I like the idea, and the specifics of having multiple use there at the Welcome Center, multiple values, is what I like. So hope that answers Rob before he asks me. So I'm supportive. I say move forward.
Valerie?
Yeah, what I like about it is the fact that the CEDC liaison is the economic development manager, because I think that is more up the alley of what the collaborative economic development committee is. So I like that, and I also think it is important that our tourism staff and the COPA staff are working with the Welcome Center, because those are both downtown, highlighted, they work hand in hand with a lot of the downtown to get that, to be like, I went down First Friday. I mean, there's a lot of activity in our little downtown. It's amazing to me. I've been down there the last few weeks, and it's a pretty busy little place. And I think having tourism and COPA liaison be that person, I think that's great. Having served on every one of those committees, I will say I think that's a great division of advocacy for them. So I really am. The only thing that I question is, but I also, just in my talking with the chamber, they don't necessarily want to staff it, because that's been their thing, is they don't have the capability to really do that. So I really like this plan, but I also would like to get the feedback. So I'd say go for it, and then we'll see what the chamber wants to do and how they want to work with us on this. But I am in favor of the plan. I do think it's a good way of distributing the money. It saves the general fund money. We really do need somebody to champion the URA, and having our economic person do that, I think, is a great idea.
Valerie and Kurt, I'm a little confused. Both of you had said you support this plan, but and to go for it, but also something about the chamber. So do you want to wait and see what the chamber's proposal is?
My clarification was to go totally right away with the urban renewal funding and the economic, and then just kind of hold off a little bit till we get the proposal on. But they're going to their board right now, so I can't imagine them not sending a letter out within the next 4 weeks, letting us know what their proposal is. So I say go ahead with the first one, and then give a couple weeks to get input on the assistant in doing the Welcome Center.
Okay, so you
I
like
think-
Aaron's proposal, but you also want to hear what the chamber's proposing?
Yes.
Okay.
I
Is
think
that-
for me, it's like Joel said, it's respect. I mean, Welcome Center is more Chambers gigs, so I think we should respect them to come up with a plan, but I think we could go ahead and begin with the position creating, and then we can dovetail around whatever they come up with.
The Welcome Center never had been the Chambers gig, but we did ask them if they would be interested in running it since they run the North Visitor Center, but it never had been run by them. That's.
Well, as I said, they are the ones that highly value it, so.
Okay. DJ.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification, Sarah. That provides the very important historical aspect of this Welcome Center. They have a visitor center at the north end of town, by which the city of Grants Pass pays $75,000 annually so that they can run that, leases the property, etc. Everybody knows that. Just wanted to remind the room. I'm not necessarily interested in what the chamber has quote unquote planned for the warming center. This is owned by the city. This is a strategic piece in the downtown that I think the city needs to maintain and operate to the best use that it sees fit. And we did ask the chamber. That was a pretty tepid answer. I've interpreted it as no, unless we wanted to contribute more money to the Chamber of Commerce, which me personally at this point do not want to. So I'm in favor of moving forward with the proposal as stated beforehand. And with all due respect to the chamber, I don't need their input on this one.
Thank you. I have Rick, then Joel.
So I'm also in favor of the plan. If there's any hesitation I have is when I read the job description and the assignment of the different individuals, I could see the amount of attention to each different subject to be quite a significant volume in the number of individuals we have addressed there, or they may find it's overwhelming. So that would be my concern, but I guess time would show. Thank you.
Joel?
It's not an or, it's an and. I don't want to lose what Rob said in terms of the focus on people that come in and expect services there at the Welcome Center, that we have that customer orientation, we have that passion of the one lady that was a business owner, and we have that attitude, so that I can think about several other analogies, but I won't bore you with that. The other thing is, we're going to get the input from the chamber after Wednesday's meeting, regardless of whether we want it or not, and I think we want it. So, and we're not making a decision today. So when we do make a decision, as long as we have that information from the chamber and see if it would change or modify it, you know, we might have to make it even more customer friendly from what they would propose or not. And so we're going to get that anyway. So that was my thought.
Well, Joel, you say that we're not making a decision today, but we definitely could make a decision today if the council's ready to move forward with this plan. So what are you proposing?
Well, then,
you're interested in?
I would propose at this point in time to make that decision of the new positions, the economic development manager and the assistant, and then realizing that we're going to get that information from the chamber before we actually vote on it, that information is available to us. There's always new information coming up in any decision-making process, and we have an obligation to review that all the way through, even after you make a decision. Sometimes you have to go back and remake it because there's new information. So I don't want to lose Rob's emphasis. I think we can move forward with a tentative decision today. We're not actually voting. This is just a workshop. And then when we do have that subject come up, we need to have that information from the chamber, and if it would change our decision, then we need to change our decision.
All right, I just don't want us to keep having workshop after workshop on this, so.
Correct. I don't think any of us do.
Okay. Brian?
Yeah, there was a couple other points I forgot to make earlier. Could you go to slide 11? It's just, I think, the previous slide. So at the bottom, when you look at the totals, under general fund and urban renewal. We're saving, quote unquote, saving $28,000 in general fund, and we're expending 65 in urban renewal. There's a little bit of a robbing Peter to pay Paul there happening, where we're taking urban renewal money and we're essentially backfilling the general fund with it. I have a concern about that. I would prefer any proposal to probably be general fund neutral. Am I reading that right, Aaron?
You are, but the one thing I want to state is urban renewal agencies, it is very clear that and expected that one of the costs for urban renewal is the management and administration. And it is not saying, oh, we found a way to keep general funds somewhere. This is an allowable use and directly related to urban renewal agency, and would not be a task that would be needed from the general fund to fund if we didn't have urban renewal. Urban renewal agency has the ability to pay for itself, so I don't see it characterized quite like that, but it is a true allowable use and expense, and is utilized by other municipalities in this way.
Sure. Yeah, I understand urban renewal. This is an allowable expense for urban renewal, but what we're doing is we're creating a general fund savings by using urban renewal money.
That's a positive.
I don't agree. I don't think that I personally see that as what I would do. So just want to put that out there. And then the other thing I wanted to say is I kind of agreed with part of what Rick said about the roles of the positions. There being, the potential for the economic development manager to be spread too thin with too many new roles. I think the primary new role for them would be urban renewal. That's really what I see that big addition to that position being. There were a few other responsibilities on the slide that honestly don't seem super important. So I guess we can dial that in when we finalize this, but I just wanted to put those out there. Thanks.
Yeah, urban renewal would be one of the primary responsibilities. It's 50% of that individual's resources going into it, and it's expected that 50% of the time would be urban renewal focused.
Aaron, as far as the process goes, would you need the council, you would draft up like a specific job creation and have the council vote on that?
Yeah. This economic development manager, we would have for you at a future business meeting for you to take action on, and along with the economic development administrative assistant. I think that one we would need to have created. I'm not sure if we have that one created or not in the salary schedule. So either way, we would be bringing forward to you something before I could go out and start recruiting or anything like that. That would provide some additional time for maybe the chamber to get their proposal in, and then you can feel assured that you're making an informed decision based on all the information. But we could go ahead and start drafting that for your consideration in a future business meeting. In the meantime, if it sounds like there's consensus that this is a direction you want to go, we can move forward towards that. One of the things I'd like to do is, if we are going to move this way with urban renewal and the Cayman Plaza Task Force and all that kind of stuff, I'd like to be able to see if we can't get someone on board sooner than later as we're starting the infancy of focus of urban renewal to get that individual going in online.
So you see potentially at least one of these positions being able to be filled prior to the new fiscal year?
Well, hopefully it'd be great if both of them were.
Okay. All right, well, it sounds like council is supportive of your plan. DJ has a comment.
Yeah, just a very brief comment. I see benefit in the creation of this position in that I think the timing is right. With Susan's retirement, I think part of the cleverness of this plan is the restructuring of that FTE that establishes the expectations is going to be far easier than trying to reestablish expectations of a former employee that weren't in their job description prior, if you followed me there. There's a lot of benefit in that. By producing that expectation, we can have the new theoretical employee sign up understanding these are your job duties. And we'll get the person that understands that. So I'm all okay with that. We are a year away from having made the decision to save $65,000 out of this welcome center. And I believe this is the closest that this, like I said, it meets my expectations. I would definitely like to get towards a decision. I'd like to make that decision today, if council is comfortable to do that. I think time is of the essence with all the projects we have going on in the downtown, so I'd like to make a decision today. I don't know if we need that to manifest as a motion, but I'd like to walk away with a plan, and let's see if it works.
Why don't you go ahead and make a motion, DJ, so we know what we're talking about?
Okay, well, I move to, I guess, what would it be? Reorganize that business advocate position into looking for words here, into the econ manager, also the hiring of an economic administrative assistant to move the recreation services into the welcome center and execute all the budgets, just like it was in the presentation.
Okay, council, so the proposal is basically, if we look at I guess both slide 9 and then that slide 11 there, to have staff move forward with creating the 2 new positions in lieu of the business advocate position with the budget allocated resources as described on page 11, and that we're also looking at having the recreation position move into the welcome center. And obviously you would need to finalize this at a business meeting, but just to make sure we're clear on direction. Kurt with the second, thank you. Is there any discussion? Brian?
Yeah, like I said, I'm really close on this, but I have to vote no because we're siphoning money off of the urban renewal to backfill the general fund, and I cannot support that. The other small piece is I don't like that the economic development administrative assistant is an assistant to the economic development manager when their roles seem pretty separate to me. I would see that currently stated admin assistant position being more of a welcome center manager. I think it would be more empowering to the position. But those are my 2 only real objections. Thanks.
Rob?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. I also had a concern with essentially backfilling or siphoning from the URA to the general fund to fund this, and I understand it's an allowable expense, but I just wanted to be clear. I think Aaron just said that roughly on the economic development manager, I think he just said, or you just said, that 50% of that person's job would be URA focus. Did you say that?
Well, it would vary based on project and time to time, in the year, but one of the big focuses, 50% of the focus would be urban renewal. That's 50% of the funding for that position would be urban renewal, and so you try to match that up with the nexus of that.
Sure. I guess I just have to go on the record as saying that basically based on 52 weeks a year, I just can't imagine that person is going to be spending half of their hours on the urban renewal agency. I just don't think there's that much work for it. I mean, there could be some days or weeks where that's the full-time focus. Based on 52 weeks a year, there isn't that much work there.
Yeah.
Aaron, hang on. DJ has a question, then Rick, then Valerie.
Yeah, I just have a clarifying question. Based on my understanding, that's what the entirety of what's being proposed today. I just want to be sure that that my motion satisfies what the recommendation from staff is. Aaron, could you answer that?
Yes, your motion is, I understand the motion, and it would establish the economic manager, economic administrative assistant position, and also establish the focus of the downtown ambassadorship as the primary function of the city in the 6NG Welcome Center.
Okay, thank you.
Rick?
So I'm comfortable with supporting the motion. The one thing I see with the economic development manager with my planning background, if we have somebody sitting in a seat that has at least the assignment of urban renewal agency, then we can start getting some activity. Right now, we are accumulating funds, and it will take a while to get a lot of these projects going forward, but to have somebody in there that is rooting for urban renewal, I think would be a real advantage to not only bringing new businesses into town, but just seeing the overall growth occur. And if you do not have somebody spending their time and some degree of attention to that, I feel it would be neglected. So, and I see if you're trying to divide your time 50%, 50%, those are both interrelated, and I think that would be very difficult. So I would be in favor as it's proposed. Thank you.
Valerie?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that, being in the last several years involved with the chamber as well as business retention and expansion and SOAR-Ready and Run One Rogue Valley. Susan has spent a lot of her time out there trying to attract businesses and find out what we need in Spalding, what we need everywhere. So those have so much, those are the behind the scene things that you don't see that are really imperative, because you've got to have a loud voice of somebody out there who knows everything about all the availabilities of what we have, opportunity zone and all those things. And they've got to be able to go out and sell our community to bring those people here. And, you know, though you may not have seen her in those roles, I think that's the biggest role that Susan had. And so by keeping that economic development manager role, that's huge. I mean, that really is huge, and it's very different than the role of the downtown welcome center operation. So the role of the economic development manager goes beyond just the URA. They've got to know every tool in the book that is going to bring somebody here, that is going to help them expand their business. She works very closely with the SDBC out at Rogue Community College. I mean, I've gone to these committees and they are weeping because Susan is not going to be there, because she has been so instrumental for them and such a huge piece of the communication from the city. So I think that you're downplaying the role if you think it's just URA. It goes far beyond that in terms of business expansion, retention, bringing people in, knowing all the businesses, working with SOAR-Ready and the Southern Oregon base. So I very strongly, you know, and I personally look at it the opposite. I look at the general fund and how we use that general fund for public safety and parks and everything else. And so I see that if we don't have that person as a URA, that we're siphoning money off of the general fund. It's not that we're siphoning money off the general fund to go to the URA. I think we're doing the opposite. That if we have somebody who's out there doing that and trying to expand our urban renewal and expansion, that money needs to come from the Urban Renewal Agency, because that's what they're really pushing. So it will be coming from the urban renewal because it's coming from the funding that comes from urban renewal. So I just look at it through a different lens. Brian.
I have to clarify. Can you put those numbers up, Aaron, on the last slide? So I'm not saying we're not going to fund any of it with urban renewal. I'm saying we're taking an extra $28,000 from urban renewal to backfill the general fund. It's still going to take, I don't know, what is that, $40-ish thousand from urban renewal? But the way it's structured now is it's taking an extra $28,000 from urban renewal and putting it in the general fund. So is that right?
No, it's taking $65,000 of urban renewal dollars and utilizing that for 50% of the economic development manager's salary.
Yes, and then it's saving how much on the general fund?
It's saving a total of $17,800, $17,000 general fund.
Okay, so if it was general fund neutral, the urban renewal would be paying $17,000 less.
Potentially.
I'm just saying urban renewal is still going to be paying for a part of that position, but right now it's paying $17,000 more than it should be because the general fund is currently paying for that piece. So
I think in his suggestion, perhaps you would have 17,000 still come from the general fund, 17,000 less come from urban renewal. Am I following that?
thank you.
Oh, I see. Okay. I see what he's saying. Okay. Got it.
So it would use a little less urban renewal and you wouldn't have any savings. in the general fund.
Aaron, this is Adam, if I can add something helpful.
Go ahead, Adam.
So the way that our current mechanism works for the URA reimbursing the city for administrative type services for the URA is based on the amount of time spent. So under the plan that's on the screen right now, if in fact the economic development manager did spend 50% of their time on urban renewal agency activity, then it would be funded 50%. But if it did not spend that much time on the urban renewal agency and instead spent a larger percentage of their time on general fund activity, then the general fund would pay for more of that. That's at least based on how our current mechanism is set up.
So Adam, would that person have to charge out their time?
That's correct.
Yes.
We all record the amount of time that we work on the urban renewal agency.
So would you recommend keeping that difference in the general fund, just if we're not sure how much time somebody's going to spend?
It would depend on the amount of effort that they were able to put toward the urban renewal agency, and if they were tasked with investing 50% of their time in the urban renewal agency, then it would be appropriate to have the URA reimburse the city for that amount of time. If, as Councilor Pell had stated, there wasn't that much activity related directly to the URA, then the general fund would take up a larger portion of their time and would fund a larger portion of their time.
Okay, Joel?
So Adam, that makes perfect sense to me, and so the budget here is an estimate, it's not reality, and what becomes reality is what they call charged as worked. And so when this position works on urban renewal, they spend up to 50% of their time, they charge to that. When they're not working on it, charged as worked, they have general fund. And so it may very well be what Brian talked about in terms of $9,000 difference, depending on how they fill out their time slip. And I don't really want to spend a whole lot more time talking about it, because as they put down on their time slip where they worked, that's where they get paid from. And, you know, the budget is just an estimate, it's not reality. And as long as it's within certain parameters and we're not 50% off or something like that, then I'm good to go personally.
Okay, we do have a motion on the table, and I have one more question, Aaron, about this secondary position, I guess the Welcome Center position. Do you see the title Economic Development Administrative Assistant? Like, is that a key element, or how is that tied to funding as opposed to something like a Welcome Center or downtown person?
Yeah, it's based on the job description, and what we've penciled out is what that would be looking at from a responsibility perspective. So we don't see this position as a manager type of position with a manager title. If it did, you'd be looking at the same salary as an economic development manager. Based on the requirements of the position, we see it in this level of other positions that are held within the city that would be classified as administrative assistant duties. And so whether that's the title that's associated with the responsibilities of the job.
So if it were something like Welcome Center Coordinator or something, would that change the ranking?
If it was classified as a coordinator, it would need to justify the coordinator position title and would be a higher level of responsibility than what is proposed here.
Okay, so there's some definitions behind the words that you use.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sure everyone would like to be as titled some, but it is specific to keep the salary schedule whole. We need to try to stay within those ranges of what the responsibilities are and the titles associated with those responsibilities.
Sure. I think looking at administrative assistant, you know, some of us associate maybe that more with being a secretary or somebody answering the phone, or...
There's a pretty high level associated with the responsibilities when it comes to that position.
All right. Is there any further discussion, council? So you're just voting now to support Aaron's proposal or not. And then when it comes down to actually having those jobs created, we'll have to have a final vote at a business meeting. DJ, you made the motion, so you get to start the vote.
Yeah.
Valerie,
Yes.
Kurt,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Vanessa,
I'm going to abstain and make my final decision in a business meeting.
Brian.
No.
Okay, motion will move through to the business meeting. Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you, Mayor, Council.
Hey, let's talk about the Welcome Center next, okay?
Hopefully this discussion is a little bit easier than that last one.
What? Was it me?
No, not at all. Good morning, afternoon, sorry, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So I have two brief topics to go over with you today. This is potential Welcome Center public restroom options, and also potential locations for the sturdy public restrooms that you authorized purchase of earlier or late last year. Sturdy. We were trying to come up with a very creative name that got us away from the Portland Loo stigma. The relationship to your council goals are maintain and operate and expand our infrastructure to meet the community needs. This is in two of your council goals. One is the Welcome Center improvements, and the other is to develop parking restroom management plan. So the current Welcome Center configuration includes a storage room as well as public restrooms with a total of 6 available stalls, essentially. Council had asked that we come back and look at an option that makes the restrooms available to the outside, similar to like a porta potty or a single like bungalow potential. So we did work with a local architect to come up with a drawing. We did take out all the interior walls as we consider what is being done with the Welcome Center per your discussion today. We will look at what the available offices are, how many people we are staffing, how much counter space we'll need, all of that, and plug in the rest of these other pieces. But what we wanted to present today was an option that created 2 exterior facing restrooms, as well as 1 interior facing. All of these are unisex and ADA compatible restrooms. So considerations for the exterior restroom doors, there is a reduction in the number of stalls currently available. There are potential issues with these, with users locking themselves in for extended periods. We may want to consider one of the sturdy restrooms, one of their features is doors that automatically unlock after a period of time. There are some other things that we could consider that might be applicable to this. Also, this does lend quite a bit more potential office Welcome Center space by this reconfiguration. So large overhead, I'm going to move right into the Loo Placement discussion, and then we could circle back and hit all of your questions at one time if that's okay with you. And this is a familiar site. This is all of the original locations that we had presented initially. So this is one of the locations that you had initially said no to. I just wanted to put it back in front of you. The Visitors Center location as a possible Loo location, in contrast to creating the exterior doors in the Visitors Center. This one has connection to an existing sewer lateral, as well as water and power both being readily available. The Beaver Lot, as you recall previously, we looked at both the Beaver and the Duck Lot. The Duck Lot now houses your first chargers. In fact, I put the icon on the screen behind me there. Right there, and those are actually installed. We'll be getting them commissioned and be doing a ribbon cutting ceremony in the next probably month. But the Beaver Lot would be a very good location. There is a great sewer line as well as water available adjacent to that. If you recall, we also presented the Salmon Lot as a potential location. This is one that we could likely take up some space towards the It would be south portion of the salmon lot where we could not take up existing parking spaces. All the other ones were taking up more parking spaces. We have water and sewer available, both in very good condition at this location. Brown Bear, this is one where we had put it out, it's kind of in that where there used to be a building maybe and that now have city parking. Water is available as well as sewer in the adjacent alley. This would be another location where we could easily place a Portland Loo. Lastly, we wanted to bring forward Baker Park. And I know that this is not a downtown location, but this is a very desirable location. And I think we had brought this up initially. The restrooms at this location are in dire need of repair / replacement, I think is the better word. But they have the added problem that they're in the floodway. They are prone to excessive vandalism and illicit behavior. Our thoughts are we had ordered 2 of these sturdy restrooms that we could place one at this location and one at a downtown location of your choosing. The one at this location would be paid for through parks funds through their LB Parks Maintenance funds, however. Downtown would not be paying for their restroom. So we're not looking for any decisions, although guidance at this point would be helpful for us. But looking for both Welcome Center restroom options. Do you want us to continue moving forward with exterior facing restrooms or look at placing one of the loos at that location? And then are we looking at loos in other locations? Is one more preferable to you than the others? And with that, I turn it back to you for discussion.
Thanks, Council. Should we stick to questions about one part or the other first? Let's talk about the downtown, let's talk about the Downtown Welcome Center questions first. Any questions? No. Okay. How about Loo locations?
I had one quick question.
Okay, go ahead.
I was just wondering what architect did the plan for us?
I actually don't have that name at the tip of my tongue.
All right, thanks.
Yes.
All right, questions about the Loo locations? Are you downtown welcome? Okay, Downtown Welcome Center.
So we just looked at different options for management of the downtown area with personnel. Is there any interaction between that decision and this decision in terms of amount of office space needed and number of bathrooms?
That's a great question. So yes and no. If we look at the current configuration of the building, we are set up with a small meeting room and one office. As we considered today, we are likely to see a few additional folks being stationed here. We would work with Bradley and his staff to come up with a new configuration, which could fill this vacant space. We likely would want to see 2 offices, an enhanced visitors area, to where we could get some more room out in that central section here. And likely this meeting room does not need to be here because that was there when Mr. Bowen was holding meetings with downtown development, but that doesn't really happen at that location as much. So we can probably make a much larger enhanced customer service area in addition to getting a couple of additional offices.
Okay, thank you, Jason.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions about the Welcome Center? Valerie?
Yeah, I just want clarification because I'm not really good at reading plans. So basically what you're saying is that you're going to open 2 of the doors to the outside and make 2 restrooms available from the outside. And the other one is one that comes through, you get to through the Welcome Center, correct? Or is that how it works? So one of them is only accessible through the inside of the Welcome Center and the other 2 are only accessible from the outside.
Yeah, the intent was, council had asked us if we could open those restrooms up to where they were solely accessible from the exterior of the building. Mm-hmm. They would be completely independent. We then wanted to make sure that there was a restroom available for staff and visitors on the interior. As we started to look at the space, the ADA restrooms get quite large, so you couldn't open up more to the outside because the janitor room and the mechanical room, those spaces are fixed. We can't really change those. The hot water heater and some of the other ancillary equipment related to the restrooms is in the janitor's room, and the mechanical room holds a lot of the HVAC as well as the electrical service entry. So we opened up as 2 ADA compatible back restrooms to the exterior. We included the sinks on the exterior of the building so that, again, people weren't going in, shutting themselves in, showering, similar to what the Loo options were, and then created 1 unisex ADA compatible bathroom for staff and visitors.
Okay, so that explains what those 2 are. Those are sinks that are outside then. Those are the sinks.
That is
okay,
correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted clarification on. So, okay, thank you.
All right, anything else about the Welcome Center? Okay, Rob?
Yeah, thanks, Jason. This is it's really precisely what I had in mind, and I know that I wasn't the only one who was requesting this, but before we moved forward on where the loos were going to go and everything else, would be to optimize the Welcome Center bathroom situation for the general public. And to me, one of the biggest goals that would have been achieved by doing it this way is if the Welcome Center is going to close, on a given day at say 5 o'clock, the bathrooms could be open till 8 o'clock or 10 o'clock or whatever. And also the person manning the Welcome Center is really not in any way, shape, or form having to deal with the general public using the exterior only bathrooms. So I think the 2 main goals there are really accomplished by doing this, and I think it actually puts us in a position of being able to move forward on potentially remodeling the outside and doing that whole thing if we know what the parameters are going to be. So this is exactly what I was hoping for.
Great, thank you.
Anybody else? Brian?
Is this just questions, or are we discussing right now, or?
I think we've moved into discussion on this topic. Then we'll have to go to Lou's.
Okay. I guess I have a quick question on the janitor's room. I understand that the mechanical room on the right, that is set. That is not going anywhere. The janitor's room, I understand the water heater is in there, but it sounds like we're probably going to be doing some plumbing work in that exact area anyway, so it wouldn't necessarily be the end of the world to potentially relocate that.
Potentially, I don't want to give you a firm answer on that yet. I know that one of these houses the roof access, so we would not want that included in one of the bathroom stalls. And I can't swear whether it's the mechanical or the janitor's room. And I can't tell from that symbol either. The one over here looks like that. Well, maybe that means that it's the roof access, but that could also be the HVAC ducting.
I think the roof access might be on the mechanical room on the top left.
Got it.
But,
okay.
Just from the plan. But anyway, when this idea was first brought forward, I had an idea that we would have more than 2 restrooms to the outside. I was originally thinking we would have up to 4 restrooms on the outside. Not even necessarily that we would need to keep all 4 open all year round, but during the busy tourist season and during, events, parade, back to the 50s, things like that, we would have 4 available for use. And then, in the slower months in the winter, we could just, lock a couple of them and just keep 2 of them open to save on cleaning costs. My concern with only having 2 to the outside is that people are a lot more likely to run into both of the restrooms being dirty or in some state of not being able to be used. Whereas if you had 3 or 4, there's a much higher chance of you coming across a bathroom that you would feel comfortable using as far as cleanliness goes. So I sent out an email to council this weekend, and I had a suggested diagram in there. I don't know how many of you saw that, but we could pretty easily put another restroom on the left side if we basically turn that janitor's closet long ways. We could put 2 bathrooms, exterior bathrooms there, and then we could pretty easily achieve 3 exterior. And then that interior bathroom could be moved over to the right because there's an existing bathroom there now. And so that side could be the interior bathroom, and it would, it's already built. You'd basically just have to take out the urinal and put in a toilet and put in a wall between that far corner and the rest of the bathroom. So I would push for us to try to do 3 if we can. I think it would be better long-term planning if we're going to go in there and be doing the work anyway. This isn't something we're going to want to have to do again in 10 years. This is like it. So I would really push for us to look at that 3rd bathroom. Thanks.
Rick?
I think Brian has some good comments, but I think if we have events at that location, they may find they still want to have a porta potty or 2 just to satisfy the sheer volume that would occur. And I question whether we want to put significant funds into a bathroom that's not going to be used that often. Another thing I see is where they're showing 2 sinks out there. If you have 2 bathrooms, I don't know that it's really necessary to have 2 sinks because you're probably not going to have both people exiting both bathrooms at the exact same time. So that might be another opportunity to just save a few dollars. Thank you.
Rob?
Yeah, I really appreciate Brian's attention to detail on this, and I would agree that if we can optimize this, and this is, you know, the concept that we're doing here is, I think, fantastic, but if we can optimize the details for relatively low money, you know, as a percentage of the whole, what we're going to be spending here, I think we should definitely do it. Having three bathrooms that exit to the outside, I think is a great idea. If we can pull that off, I think we should. And again, since we're in basically just the general discussion phase, now would be the time to seriously consider it. And I really appreciate Brian having an eye for detail on that. That's all.
Joel?
I'm switching subjects on bathrooms, is that okay? I mean, it'd still be a bathroom subject.
No, let's not go to the luge yet.
Okay.
Does anybody else have further discussion on the Welcome Center? Vanessa, and then Kurt, and then Val.
Yeah, I want to support the statements about exploring adding another restroom from the exterior. I think that would be valuable when we do have downtown events, and there is a lot of people downtown. I also would like to support keeping the proposed 2 sinks. If we learned anything in the last few years, we want to encourage people to wash their hands.
Okay, I'd support Brian's proposal for the reasons he stated. So it's the Mo theory, Mo bathrooms, Mo better.
Valerie?
Yeah, I was wondering whether with the architect you had discussed putting more bathrooms at the outside of it in the back. Because I do know with AD, there's a lot of requirements that have to be there for ADA, and that does make a difference in terms of the size of the bathroom, what you have to have. So, and I would agree with Vanessa that I think we do need 2 sinks. I do. I personally like this. I don't know, we have, you know, I think that if you have events, you bring enough extra restrooms. And I like this drawing. I think it's drawn up and I'm perfectly fine with it. So, you know, if the majority of council wants to go forward with redoing it and going for more, you know, that's okay. But I personally like this drawing as it is.
Is there a requirement that all the restrooms would need to be ADA?
I would think exterior restrooms, we probably need to make all ADA just because of what Brian said. If there's one down and it's locked and then suddenly we only have one restroom and it's the non-ADA restroom. So exterior facing, I think definitely we should make them all ADA, which does take up just a little bit more room, but you could easily fit the 3rd restroom where the janitor's room is, provided that all of that stuff can be relocated.
Okay, well, I heard interest from at least 4 counselors that they would be interested in seeing a plan that had 3 outward-facing restrooms. So can we ask for that?
Yep.
See if it's a possibility. DJ?
Yeah, I just want to ask a question about this. Are we talking about redoing a plan for 3 exterior bathrooms within the confines of that building, or are we talking about doing in addition to that building?
I think it'd just be within the confines. Yeah, Brian's saying yes. You know, one other thing to keep in mind, it's a kind of a long-term plan at this point, but if that plaza were to be redeveloped, it could also have a very large public restroom, and we might not need to have so many stalls in this, but anyway, for now, just a plan with 3, see how it's possible.
Yep, understood, thank you.
Lou?
Sure, yeah, I'd be in, oh, sorry, I was.
Go ahead, DJ.
It's okay, sorry. I just wanted that clarification and then just add a little input. I understand that we do have, you know, sort of a greater remodeling issue with exterior and those kind of different things. And, you know, I'm not on fire for, you know, stamping in stone the approval for this proposed plan or really any future plan until we know exactly what that building's going to look like and kind of what we want to do with it. So that's just a slight word of caution, but yeah, I think there's a potential for more efficient use of that building. Thanks.
Yep.
Thanks, DJ. Okay, how about Lou's? Questions about the Lou's? Loo locations. Brian?
I was just wondering if instead of Portland Loo, maybe we can start calling them the Jefferson Loo. That might be like get more uptake, you know, be more acceptable. Just an idea.
DJ, go ahead.
Yeah, can you remind the council where the former locations were considered? I know that we talked about maybe one at the Welcome Center, but that might be satisfied with the reorganization of the Welcome Center and accessible restrooms there. But what were our considerations for the other location? Do you recall?
Yeah. So there were several. Beaver Lot was one. Duck Lot, I would not recommend the Duck Lot now since we just took up parking spaces there with the vehicle chargers. We had also put forth the Grasshopper Lot over by the Growers Market. I did not bring that back because I thought I remember council not wishing to go there. Salmon Lot is another location. Brown Bear Lot. And then we just put back out there this time Baker Park as a potential for one.
Yeah, I think we had pretty much decided on Duck or Beaver, one or the other, and then the other one was kind of totally just buy another one, we'll find a location for it.
That was my recollection, that we had kind of centered on this little area here, but I wanted to bring all of those back for your consideration.
Okay, DJ, go ahead.
Sure, yeah, just two brief questions to kind of help the conversation. Are we getting 2 or 3 of these? What was the decision on that?
We ordered 2 of them. They are in manufacture to be delivered mid-March.
Okay, very good. And I understand that for a time the Owl parking lot has been considered for rehabilitation. Have we made any thoughts or plans about that? That might help make the decision, because if that's redone and has a restroom there, then we might not want to double down on that. Do you know if that's been considered?
I do not, and I believe that that's kind of all on hold as the downtown plaza. I'm kind of looking at Bradley. That really ties into that whole town center plaza discussion, but the Owl lot, I believe, has been put on hold.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Brian, then Rob.
So the Owl Lot we talked about last time, and I don't think, regardless of what happens with the plows and everything, I don't necessarily think the Owl Lot would be a great spot. However, right across the street from the Owl Lot, we have the Osprey Lot, which is next to the hall and catty corner from Horny Goat there. And there's a little space there. It's actually where the current parking lot sign is. And it's big enough for that bathroom. And I would really advocate for one of the bathrooms to go there, because it gets a ton of foot traffic. There is the Horny Goat, there's the Hall, there's Carson's, there's Royal Barge, there's the Wonderbird, there's, you know, it's right off of G Street. I don't know that we could find another spot off of G Street that's going to have that much foot traffic. And that's really, you know, where these bathrooms are designed to go, is someplace where people are just going to be walking right by them and they're easy to use. If they get tucked back in a parking lot, they're not going to see hardly any use at all, and they're going to honestly see, you know, a lot of activity that we're not going to want to see in them. So on that Osprey Lot corner, I would, you know, as far as the other one goes, I don't really know where the second one should go, but I would certainly advocate for one to go on the corner of the Osprey Lot. Thanks.
Rob, then Joel.
Yeah, I was actually going in the same direction as Brian, but I was going to ask a question first of Jason. Is there a reason, some practical reason why it couldn't go on that southeast corner of 5th and I that Brian was speaking about? 5th and H, rather, sorry.
Off the top of my head, I can't answer yes or no. I would definitely want to get a zoomed in picture of that so I can make sure that dimensionally we can get it in there without disrupting parking and being far enough back out of the right of way. But it is a potential. And we're looking at right here where my red dot is, correct, Councilor DeLagrange? Right in this northwest corner.
Yeah, there's enough room there, but I would also, I will go to comments later, but yeah.
Okay.
Joel.
So I had a question and then some comments. I guess we're kind of into the comments, but I won't be very long. Baker Park, the existing bathroom. I've been down there several times. Its life expectancy, its maintenance costs now, what's going on, where we're at in terms of economic efficiencies with Baker Park bathroom.
So the 3 doors were damaged back in the late 90s during that big flood there, where I wasn't here, but I understand it took up like 3 or 4 feet into that, if not more, and they've really never been. So they're hollowed out, really not functional. The roof, not so great. You know, it's block. So in terms of the structural integrity of just the walls themselves, it's fine. Now, we do have a report, an asset report that I think is coming out, you know, very soon that will give us a little more technical detail on that. But I think, as Jason mentioned, one of the main things is it's in the floodway, which our code prohibits any new development in the floodway. It's fine because it's there. So any, you know, removal of structures from the floodway is definitely preferred. Otherwise, you know, in terms of putting a new facility, the idea was to move it up, have it still be visible, so that when you're entering in off Park Street, you know, you see that, okay, there is a restroom here, but move it out of the floodway.
To add to that, Jason did mention it, the illicit activities that occur in that type of restroom and the impacts of maintenance, daily maintenance to the Parks Department and the associated tasks with that. From a staff perspective, it would be seen as a big win if we had a different style of restroom at Baker Park instead of the one that we currently have.
So then I'm going into discussion a little bit. It seems like we got a bathroom that has been there a while. It's got some ongoing maintenance issues. It's in the floodplain. If we replace it out of the floodplain, it still provides public service for all economic levels. And I know that there's a lot of people that use it presently, and it'll reduce our maintenance costs. And so I would support the other one down there at Baker Park.
Vanessa.
So I support the exploration of seeing if it would work in the Osprey Lot. Just from my own personal experience, I know that there's really continuous foot traffic in that area regularly outside of the events that we have, like Art Along the Road. I think that would be really instrumental for that event. Although I do like the idea of it also being placed in the Beaver Lot, I do feel as though that is slightly away from the downtown foot traffic, the normal foot traffic that we see. My interest in that location is that across the street is actually a transit connector point. So I know that that's really frequently used by bus goers, so that might be nice for them. The spirit of this discussion was really to create more restrooms in our downtown area, so I would not like to lose focus of that, although I do support replacing the restrooms at Baker Park. I think that's a discussion for another day that I would like to be brought forward again. We can explore the possibility of that, but I would like these 2 restrooms to stay downtown.
Okay.
Brian?
I just wanted more clarity on what's going on at Baker. Are those bathrooms currently open?
Yes.
Okay, so they're functional and right now?
Unless something's changed very recently, to my knowledge, yes.
Okay. I was unclear because you said that they were damaged in the 90s in a flood, and I kind of intimated that maybe they hadn't been repaired or something, or okay, they had been repaired. Okay, so we
Yes.
have ongoing vandalism issues there because we don't have vandal-proof fixtures, and we haven't vandal-proofed the bathroom because we haven't had any other floods since then. So
Yeah, and it's above and beyond vandalism. It's illicit activities that occur in that style restrooms, in those style restrooms, that are creating a safety issue to the general use, park use in those restrooms. That is a key security safety issue for the users of the park, along with the staff that have to deal with the park.
So you would see one of these restrooms to encourage less activity because they're like louvered?
Yeah, the way they're designed, the space, the more, they're a little more open, that they tend to not be as conducive to those type of activities. And it is something that, like Councilor Auger, if you desire to have both of the restrooms in the downtown area, that's great. It could be something that staff feels is important enough that we try to budget for in the parks and order a third one potentially with council's consideration.
Okay, thank you. Could we not put like louvered doors on the current bathroom, or do things to the current facility to make it less conducive to illicit activity, or is it just there's nothing we can do at this point?
Yeah, I think the louvered doors wouldn't be enough to prohibit, to non-incentivize things that occur. And I don't know if we want to get involved with the details of the illicit activities that occur in those restrooms at the park. But if, to give you a better perspective, if you'd like, I'm sure Brad or the chief can talk some more about the activities that are occurring there.
All right, I'll get that info offline. Thanks.
I think my personal opinion about Baker Park may have different needs than these Portland Loos, because the Loo is really just a quick pit stop, and then Baker Park, has a lot of, not that we necessarily want to encourage swimming there, but it is kind of a boating, swimming facility. I see people changing clothes and different things like that maybe wouldn't be resolved by just having one little Loo there. Just something to think about. Other questions, comments about Loo locations? A couple of people have said they would like to explore options at the Osprey lot. Valerie?
Yeah, I'm open to checking the Osprey lot. I still don't have a problem with Salmon Lot. I know that everybody else kind of thinks it's kind of off, but you're not taking any parking. There's the location, and you could certainly put signage. I mean, it is, it's like a block away or less than a block away. So, I'm kind of open. I guess I'm not set on anything. I kind of feel, like you said, the transit goes by the Beaver Lot. And there are a lot of people that are down there, so that would be, I would be open to that. So I don't really have any area other than I still think the Salmon Lot, because it doesn't take parking, might be something to consider with signage.
Rob?
Okay, so a few things. One would be, I think that if we're, now that we're heading towards remodeling the Welcome Center, putting one of the loos in the downtown plaza, I think should immediately come off the table because we don't need it. We're not going to need it there particularly. It's not going to be high priority. I can tell you that both from being on the parking task force and also from being downtown virtually every day for a quarter century, the Salmon Lot gets very, very little foot traffic, that area. The people that walk over there are primarily employees. The lot that's immediately to the west of it, it's almost all reserved for Access Health employees. So basically that's an employee foot traffic area. I don't view that as a tourist or a shopper foot traffic area, which to me is a huge distinction. Especially on any given Friday night, the Hall Lot and the Owl Lot can be full, and the Salmon Lot, due to lack of signage and other things, but also because it's a little bit off the beaten path, it's just used way, way, way less. So to me, the location that Brian had suggested in the Hall Lot, or the Osprey Lot, I should say, wouldn't take any parking, wouldn't steal any parking. So I think that's a much, much better location because it's just got so much more pedestrian traffic that actually are the type of people that really need to find a bathroom, tourists and shoppers and so forth. And I would say that it's probably 5 times as many would be my guess, and I'll bet that's a pretty close guess. As far as Vanessa made a great point with regards to the Beaver Lot being really close to the a transit stop. I think that's another really good location for that reason. I think because of the grocery store there are a lot of people who, there are a fair amount of pedestrians over there also that do visit that grocery store. I think that makes a lot of sense. As far as Baker Park, I think that we obviously have issues with that bathroom. I don't think that was what we initially had thought about when we decided to order the Jefferson Loos. So I think that Beaver, and I also think that Fifth and H would be a really the two most, well, the highest traffic spots as far as pedestrians and the type of pedestrians that would be needing public restrooms. Thanks.
Yeah, I thought we had actually decided on Beaver or Duck. I don't have a strong preference between the two. And I remember you bringing to us at one point, there were some lighting concerns and.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, is that one
I'm
good?
I think that I have direction. Beaver, I hear, is definitely popular. And then I'm going to go back and take a look at the Osprey Lot and see if we can get it in there. And if not, I'll report back and maybe we can jump right across the street to Owl and stay out of the plaza area, or we'll come up with some options if it doesn't fit in that corner.
Okay, sounds good to me. Does it sound good to everyone else? Okay.
Thank you.
We'll move on. Thank you, Jason. Agenda review. So we have a workshop next week that we'll have your budget committee orientation as well as a discussion on permanent funding for public safety. And then next Wednesday's meeting, we will pick up that public hearing on the landscape and buffering standards. There's council action item on is that the fire department that's wanting us to consider that? The fireworks ban during red flag warning, what's that for?
Yeah, that's fire who would be doing the presentation, yeah.
Okay. Council action item, adopting the strategic plan. We move that next one. And then consent calendar has a resolution that would adopt the non-bargaining handbook, resolution for GPPA negotiations, resolution awarding the fiscal year 21 sanitary sewer replacement projects, and then appointing a parks committee member, appointing a six tourism advisory committee members. And then Caveman Plaza Task Force, was there an issue? I thought we just took care of that one last week, but
You're reducing the
Am I-
number. So you're having to, instead of accepting all of the applicants, you need to choose, I believe the decision was to go down to 9.
Actually, now that I think about it, last week's was the Sustainability
Right.
Committee. Okay, this is a new one. Okay, Caveman Plaza Task Force. So, any questions about any of that? Joel?
So I know on our previous discussion about fireworks, I don't think we were just talking about red flag warnings. I think we were talking about high fire danger, and those two are different. Vanessa?
Yeah, it was a wide discussion. It began as a wide discussion in the possibility of banning fireworks even on the 4th of July. And it was narrowed down to banning them during red flag warnings. That's the council consensus. And so we'll just approve that formally.
Okay, I just had some concerns about that because red flag warnings are like high winds and things like that, where high fire danger is everything's dry and hot. And maybe we could have the speaker just address that.
Okay. Did you have something, Brian?
Yeah, I would just support that. I think that there might be other conditions that we should consider in that discussion, other than just red flag, extreme danger and other items.
Okay. I'm going to relay that info to the fire, whoever's,
Certainly, we'll be prepared to answer any questions. Of course, any documents in front of you won't represent any changes besides just the red flag.
okay, so we just need to amend if council wanted to approve something different than,
Yeah.
okay. Along that same line, I'll give you guys a heads up that one of the Cave Junction city councilors had suggested to me that we perhaps write a letter encouraging the county commissioners to ban fireworks countywide, and that Cave Junction or other organizations could also write similar letters if they wanted to. So that might be a topic that we would want to discuss at that time too. Anything else for Monday?
I had a question on that
Okay.
business meeting. I wasn't aware that tourism was appointing 6 members. I thought there was only maybe like 1 or 2 positions open, so I was just looking for clarity on that.
Because some of the people that are currently on, their terms have expired because we didn't know what we were doing with the Tourism Advisory Committee, so some of those may reapply.
Great, thank you.
Rob?
So I wanted to propose a new item for the agenda. Is now the
Okay.
time?
Okay, yeah, I'll just note real quick. So February 21st is a holiday, so we canceled that Tuesday meeting just due to the holiday. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, I'd like to schedule a workshop discussion on putting a ballot measure on this November that would initiate city councilors being paid starting January 1st of 2025. And there's a lot of reasons for that timing and so forth, but we can save that for the discussion. But I'd like to have that discussion at a workshop for, again, putting something on the ballot this fall to potentially start creating a way for councilors to be paid starting 2025.
Okay, is anyone else interested in having a workshop on council compensation? Brian, that was a yes. Anybody else? Okay, Joel said he would support the discussion. Okay, anything else? Brian?
Yeah, I was going to see if there was an appetite on council to, in the next month or two, have a discussion about the bulk water rate again, just to kind of circle back. We did the increase last year to kind of see, how our revenues went, how that may have affected the use of the bulk water, and seeing if any adjustments need to be made before this bulk water season comes up.
Okay, is anyone interested in reviewing bulk water rates? Val says yes, Rick says yes. Okay, bulk water rate review. Anything else? Aaron, I think we had some parking lot items from strategic planning, so we could talk about that Wednesday at our agenda setting meeting, but.
Definitely, and I've got it tentatively scheduled to also discuss with council on activities, if you'd like, when we give an update on the strategic plan. We go
Okay.
through the strategic plan and have you look at what you'd like to adopt, and then we'll work through all the parking lot items.
Okay, I just didn't want us to forget to talk about it, so if you've got it on a list, that's great. All right, nothing else? Vanessa, go ahead.
Also, just a reminder, Erin, I think the February 14th workshop may be a good time to revisit that budget committee motion from 2021, since we'll all be in the same room together.
Yes, the mayor and Brian, who brought the motion up, and the council president did have a discussion and recognized that. I think the way we're moving forward with a review of the LB projects to council is sufficient and in the spirit of the desired motion.
Thank you.
So yeah, we have 2 LB discussions at the end of March 21st and 28th, that the budget committee would be welcome to sit in on if they were interested in learning about those. All right, how about we adjourn? You know, it's not even 2. Yeah, Brian?
I move that we adjourn.
Okay, anybody second? Vanessa with the second. All in favor of adjourning today?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? I guess everyone wants to go, move on. Have a good week, and we'll see you next Monday.